Howdy folks, and welcome back to Elite Dangerous with the mighty Jingles. As you can see, I'm back in the ASP Explorer. I've finally taken the hint and stopped buying and destroying big expensive ships that I have absolutely no idea how to fly. Do you recall in a previous episode I made the observation that it just didn't seem to be nearly as difficult to earn a shit ton of money in Elite as I remember it being? And apparently, well, it turns out there's a very good reason for that. Certainly back when Elite launched, the grind was all about earning money from trading, bounty hunting, and so on, in order to be able to afford to buy the bigger and better ships. But several years ago, with the release of the first major patch for Elite, the Horizons update, although technically it was more of a DLC expansion than a patch, they introduced the concept of engineers. Engineers are highly secretive individuals scattered around the galaxy who have the knowledge and know-how to apply some serious upgrades to every aspect of your ship. And there are various different hoops that you have to jump through in order to gain access to them, but they all have one thing in common. They require a seriously large amount of engineering materials in order to apply those upgrades to your ships. To begin with, I have access to Felicity Farseer and Todd the Blaster McQuinn. I received the invitation from Felicity Farseer because I have a Pilots Federation exploration rank of Scout or higher, and that isn't difficult to achieve. Just make sure you honk your Discovery scanner every time you fly through a new system, and before too long you will have the exploration rank of Scout. But in order to take things to the final stage with Felicity Farseer, I'm going to have to provide her with 1 unit of meta alloys before she'll agree to start tinkering with my engines. What the hell are meta alloys? That's a very, very good question. But I'm going to need to find out, and I'm going to need to get some before I can convince Felicity to start the process of upgrading my frameshift drive to extend the jump range of my ASP beyond its current completely stock 34 light years. See, this is what engineers do. I saw a very, very short video clip on YouTube last week, I think, where a guy in the starting ship, the Sidewinder, this thing costs less than 10,000 credits, and it's the free ship that you get if you can't afford the rebuy cost on whatever you were flying when it got destroyed. It was fully engineered, and he got attacked by somebody in an Anaconda, which is possibly the biggest ship in the game. It's certainly one of the most expensive. Within about 2 minutes, he'd nearly killed the Anaconda, taken 0 damage himself, and the Anaconda was forced to run away crying. Now, I don't know if you play World of Tanks, but just to put that into context for you, it's like somebody driving a LOL tractor, beating the shit out of a T-62 and forcing him to run away in tears. This is what engineering can do for you, and this is where the real grind is in Elite. Now, what you're going to see in today's video, and in most of the videos that I'm going to be pushing out about Elite over the course of the next couple of weeks, I can't really take much credit for, because it's all information that I learned from a Reddit thread called Fox's Step-by-Step Guide to Unlocking Engineers Quickly. It's an absolute piece of genius information, and without it, this process, while it is pretty grindy, would have been unbelievably grindy. But Fox, on Reddit, has put together a step-by-step guide to unlocking all of the engineers that you need and doing it in a way that's as efficient as possible, and will also earn you quite a bit of money in the process. In fact, I've already received an invitation from a third engineer, Elvira Martuk, simply by following the first step of Fox's guide and travelling more than 300 light years from my career start point in order to get the meta alloys that Felicity Farseer wants. So if you're going to be following this guide, there are some prerequisites. You're going to need a ship that's got a reasonably high light year jump range, so the Diamondback Explorer, the ASP Explorer, or if you've got the money to burn, an Anaconda. The ship's also going to need a reasonable cargo capacity. It should be capable of carrying at least 50 tons of cargo, so again, the ASP Explorer fits the bill, also the Type 9 transporter, and again the Anaconda. You're also going to have at least 10 million credits to burn, but that's not really going to be much of an issue, and you're going to need a lot of free time and huge amounts of engineering materials. Engineering materials aren't the same as commodities. Commodities take up space in your cargo hold and can be bought and traded at stations and outposts. Engineering materials don't. They're split into three categories: manufactured, encoded, and raw materials. Encoded materials. Often you'll see me targeting a ship and giving it a scan just because, or stopping to analyse a frameshift drive wake with a frameshift drive wake scanner. And that's because you can get encoded engineering materials from doing a scan of a ship and discovering that its shields or its drives might not be properly tuned. This is all valuable data. Or finding unusual frameshift drive wake echoes when you're scanning a frameshift drive wake. These are examples of encoded engineering materials. Raw materials, which is what we're looking for here, as well as the meta-alloys, include your basic elements, things like phosphorus, sulfur, manganese, zinc, selenium, germanium, things like that. And manufactured materials are, well, as the name would suggest, they're things that have been built. And you typically find these from unidentified signal sources where the wreckage of battle has left various different ship components scattered around. Or if you can't find any lying around, you can always make your own by blowing up ships and salvaging the wreckage. Right now though, I'm looking to score some raw materials and some meta-alloys, which is why you find me in the Hyades Sector AQYDB1 system running a filtered spectral scan of the 65 orbital bodies in this system in order to find a planet that contains the kind of biological and or geological surface deposits where I'm going to find not just a shit ton of useful raw materials, but also the meta-alloys that I'm out here for in the first place. Now, you achieve the rank of Scout with the Pilots Federation. Remember, you have to have the rank of Scout to get the invitation from Felicity Farseer in the first place, but you achieve the rank of Scout by selling 270,000 credits worth of exploration data. And if you don't already have that, you're probably going to get that just by coming here, because there are 65 orbital bodies. So what I'm looking for here as I scan these different planets are planets that not only have useful resources, and most of them have useful resources, but they also need to be a planet I can land on, and ideally a planet that has several geological or biological features of interest. These are basically raw material hotspots. I mean, if you find a planet that you can land on that the filtered spectral scanner tells you has useful materials, you can just land. Oh, you will need a planetary vehicle hangar, by the way, just in case that wasn't completely obvious, because you're going to be doing some driving. You can just land on any planet that you are capable of landing on, whether it has any of these hotspots or not, and just drive around and hope that you'll come across something useful. But the hotspots, or geological features as they're known, are concentrations of those materials, and it's in these concentrations that you're also going to find, if you're in the right system, looking at the right planet, things like meta-alloys. Now, you don't have to come all the way out to the Hyades Sector AQYDB1 system in order to get your meta-alloys. You can just head down to the Maya system, dock at Daniel's Progress, and buy one meta-alloy. It'll cost you 113,000 credits or so, which again is pocket change. But if you haven't already achieved the exploration rank of Scout, then this is the fastest way of doing it, picking up the meta-alloys for free, as well as getting a whole bunch of valuable astronavigational data and a shit ton of extremely valuable engineering raw materials. So I've picked my target planet. This is the second planet around the third star in this system. This is a trinary system, I suppose that's the right word. Now this place, as well as being a planet that I can land on, also has a lot of geological features. But in order to map out the locations of those geological features, I'm going to have to conduct a detailed surface scan. So please, before you come this far, remember to fit your ship with the detailed surface scanner. Okay, we're close enough, we're slow enough. Let's fire this thing up. So this is mini game, I suppose you'd call it, where you're trying to basically map out the surface of the planet with as few probes, sorry, forgot how to speak English there for a second, with as few probes as possible in order to achieve an efficiency bonus. I think the efficiency bonus just grants you more cash when you hand in the astronavigational data that you've gathered in this system. As you can see, it's not really that difficult. Now, you could fly all the way around the other side of the planet, which is what I'm doing here, because this is the first time I've ever used a detailed surface scanner, so you're going to have to just bear with me here. It's been a long time since I played Elite. But you don't have to, because the planet has gravity, and you can use that gravity to fire above the orbital plane and loop the probe right around so it impacts on the far side. But hey, this works too, it's just a little slower. And with the surface scan complete, you can see the reason why we're here. One of those sites of interest contains Thargoid barnacles. What the hell are Thargoid barnacles? Yeah, I have no idea, but they're the reason why we're here. So, the Thargoids, of course, were the bad guys in the original Elite, and they're back in Elite Dangerous. The meta-alloys are actually, how can I put this? They're a component of Thargoid ships, and the Thargoids harvest them by planting these Thargoid barnacles on planets, absorbing resources, and the barnacles convert those resources into meta-alloy buds that sprout off the barnacles. That's what we're here for. Now, the meta-alloys themselves don't have any immediate use to me. I just need them because Felicity Farseer wants me to provide her with one. But they are also a component in anti-Thargoid technology, but that's going to be coming much further down the line. Components built with meta-alloys have resistant properties to the Thargoid corrosion effects that they use in their weapons. But that's not something that I'm going to have to be worrying about for, well, I hope it's not something I'm going to have to be worrying about for a very, very long time. At the moment, we're just here to grab some meta-alloys, score some raw materials, and then go and unlock Felicity Farseer, so she can tinker with and improve the jump range on my frameshift drive. And as we put the ASP down, you can see something up ahead. Come on, let's get this thing parked. There we go. I do like the ASP Explorer, you know. It's an extremely popular multi-purpose ship for a very good reason. In particular, I love the way that you have the most amazing view from the cockpit in all of Lacon's ships, not just the ASP. Okay, enough admiring the view. Let's get into the SRV. So, I hope you equipped your ship with a planetary vehicle hangar, otherwise this is going to be a wasted journey. This, by the way, I think is the first time I've driven the SRV in about 4 years, so the one thing that I did remember at least is that when you're driving an SRV on a planet with low gravity, take it easy. Or if you must go fast, don't pull any sharp turns, because it's extremely easy to put this thing into an uncontrollable spin. But those are Thargoid barnacles up ahead, and these are what are known as Thargoid scavengers tending to the barnacles. Now, if you don't mess with them, they won't mess with you, although they can relatively easily be killed with the dual repeaters mounted in the turret of the SRV, but if there are a lot of them, they can quickly overwhelm you, and there usually are a lot of them. Now, if you do kill them, they will drop stuff, and you can analyse the remains to get more materials that are going to be useful at some point in the future for anti-Thargoid technology, but that's not why we're here. You see all the white dots on the scanner in the bottom middle of the screen. These are pointing to the locations of resource deposits. Now here, in this big old cluster of Thargoid barnacles, those resource deposits take the form of buds on these spikes that can be shot off and scooped up in order to harvest the valuable raw materials contained within. But that extremely big bud up there, that is a meta-alloy. And that's what we're here for. Now, you're going to have to forgive me here as I make a bit of a dog's dinner of scooping up this meta-alloy bud, because it has been a very long time since I've last driven the SRV. But you cannot actually scoop up anything in the SRV's cargo scoop unless you have it targeted. Even with the scoop deployed, you can drive over something as many times as you like and you won't actually scoop it up unless you've selected it as a target. So there we go. It shows up as a mining fragment, at least on screen, but you can see in the targeting indicator it's listed as a meta-alloy, so I just need to drive over it with a cargo scoop deployed, and providing it's targeted, I've just got my first unit of meta-alloys. Now I only need one, which is just as well because the SRV's cargo bay can only carry a maximum of 2 physical items. Bear in mind, engineering materials, raw materials, iron, carbon, sulfur, tellurium, selenium, palladium, zinc, mercury, don't take up cargo space. I don't know why, but I'm not complaining. And you can carry up to 250, I think, of every different type of raw material. In fact, up to 250 of every type of engineering material, whether they're raw materials, manufactured materials, or encoded materials. And the raw materials you're going to find in the small buds that also, in the same way as the large bud that contains the meta-alloys, can be found on these spikes. You scoop these up in exactly the same way, just make sure you've got them targeted. The only difference is they don't take up any cargo space, so you can carry almost as many of them as you want. It took me a while to figure it out, because like I said, it's been a long time since I've driven the SRV, but there's a much, much better way than this, going through your contacts list and individually selecting the fragments in order to have them targeted so you can scoop them up when you drive over them. All you actually need to do is just be looking in the general direction of whatever it is that you want to target and press your right mouse button, and it will automatically target whatever's in front of you, which makes it much, much easier and much faster and more efficient to collect these resources. And there are a lot of resources waiting to be picked up here. I mean, just look at all the white dots on the scanner. They're not guaranteed to have all of the resources that I'm actually going to need, but there are resource brokers on orbital stations who will allow you to trade one type of resource for another type of resource. So you can, and probably should, spend as much time as possible here gathering all of the stuff that's available to just be picked up. And once you've cleared the place out, or you've got enough, or you've just had enough, it's time to head back to your ship and go and see Felicity Farseer. Unless, of course, you haven't already achieved the Pilots Federation Exploration rank of Scout. I mean, at this stage I already have, but if you haven't, then instead of heading straight for Felicity Farseer, you should instead plot a course to the Eurybia system. Dock at a station controlled by the Eurybia Blue Mafia faction and dump all of the cartographic data that you've gathered on that station. This will not only guarantee you the rank of Scout, but it will also raise your reputation with that faction. And that will save you some time down the road when you come to unlock another engineer known as Liz Reiter. Assuming that you do have the rank of Scout, you need to be plotting a course to the Deciat system, because this is where Felicity Farseer lives. A mere 300 light years or so from where we currently are, which of course is the whole reason why we came all the way out here, not just to pick up the meta-alloys, but because it was so far away. That 300 light years travel distance from your career start point was one of the prerequisites for unlocking one of the other engineers. Several jumps later, we're about to land at Farseer Incorporated in the Deciat system, which is where Felicity Farseer hangs out. Now, the engineers all live on the surface of planets. You won't find any of them in orbital stations, so it's a bit of a pain in the arse, but it's definitely worth the trouble. So now I've landed, I've been invited, but in order to buy the modifications I have to give her these metal alloys, so we'll go ahead and donate those. And now Felicity has agreed to work on my ship systems. Now at the moment I only have grade 1 access. There are up to 5 different grades of access, each providing much more effective modifications to your ship. And Felicity was actually capable of modifying all kinds of systems, not all of which I actually have equipped on the ship at the moment, but her speciality is frameshift drives. She will upgrade all the way up to grade 5. The question is, what kind of frameshift drive upgrade do you want? Well, clearly I want increased range. And for this, I'm going to need atypical disrupted wake echoes. And I only have 2 of those. Now, there is a much more efficient way of doing this. If you head to the inara.cz website, they have not only a complete list of all of the engineers in the game, but also what upgrades those engineers are capable of doing and exactly how many components and of what type they require to do those upgrades. They will even show, if you log in and create an account there, they'll pull your data from the game and tell you exactly how many upgrades you can currently afford to have completed based on the engineering materials that you have. So a little bit of prior planning prevents exactly this kind of piss poor performance. I can't get her to do the upgrades to my frameshift drive that I want, but I can, because she doesn't just perform upgrades on your frameshift drive. I do have the materials required to get some upgrades to my power plant. It's not that I actually need these power plant upgrades, I don't, but I do need to increase my level of access with Felicity, and getting her to perform upgrades increases the level of access. So she's now prepared to offer me grade 2 upgrades. Now, I'd rather that she was giving me grade 2 upgrades to my frameshift drive, but I'll take whatever I can get, because the purpose of this whole exercise is just to unlock grade 3 access. I mean, I'm going to want full grade 5 access, and I'm going to want eventually to get my frameshift drive upgraded all the way to grade 5. But it's more important in the short term that I simply unlock grade 3 access in general, however I get there, with Felicity Farseer, because the thing about these engineers, they're a very clannish bunch. They all know each other. And if I get in with Felicity, other engineers are going to start offering their services to me. And this is where the real grind is in Elite Dangerous. But thanks to Fox's step-by-step guide, linked down below in that video description, this process is going to be as painless and profitable as possible. But it's still by no means going to be quick or easy. We're going to be travelling tens of thousands of light years from one end of the galaxy to the other, visiting star systems and seeing sites that no other human pilots in Elite Dangerous have ever seen before. We're going to be sourcing and trading in all kinds of valuable commodities, not all of them entirely legal. You're going to be mining for valuable resources, trading in resources, not all of which are entirely legal. You're going to be bounty hunting. You're going to be exploring, unearthing lore elements that explain the history and story behind Elite. In fact, the engineering grind is nothing if not comprehensive. You're going to be sticking your fingers into just about every pie that Elite has to offer in order to get the most out of all of the engineers that are available to be unlocked. You might think this is a good thing, you might think this is a bad thing. Personally, I think it's good. I think if it hadn't been for the engineering grind, there are certain aspects of the game that I never really would have tried and wouldn't have realised that I actually quite enjoy. Just, you know, watch out for those aliens.